Dr. Zacharias is a leading scholar of American literature, American studies, and the 19th century American author Henry James. He has brought international attention to Creighton through his efforts leading the Center for Henry James Studies, which serves as the headquarters for the critically acclaimed series, The Complete Letters of Henry James. It's been published by University of Nebraska Press. Dr. Zacharias has published extensively and served as a keynote speaker, often at international conferences. In 2008, he received the prestigious Fulbright Faculty Scholarship to perform research in Greece. Dr. Zacharias' Henry James Letters project involves the scrupulous editing, annotation, and contextualization of the more than 10,500 letters, postcards, and telegrams written or dictated to Henry James. It provides insight into the mind and work of one of the foremost writers of the 19th century. And Dr. Zacharias involves undergraduates as well as graduate students in his work, training them in the art and science of documentary editing. This is a rare opportunity at a university of Creighton's size. He embodies the ideal of a teacher-scholar, and his enthusiasm for literature is truly inspirational. He is a recipient of the Creighton College of Arts and Sciences Research Award, as well as a previous winner of the Creighton Student Union Kennedy Award for excellence in teaching. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Greg Zacharias as a 2014 University Research Awardee.
You know, it's a great privilege to be here. I feel, so fortunate, and it's great to follow, the great Dr. Lynch. When I think about my situation today, I think first you have the Lynch syndrome, now you have me, right? I don't know what that says, but I'm very grateful for having been asked to come here today. And, in a lot of ways, I feel standing here today like Lou Gehrig at Yankee Stadium when he felt like the luckiest man on the face of the earth. But unlike Lou Gehrig on that day in 1939, I'm healthy, I'm not retiring. Working on the Complete Letters of Henry James project, one of the largest literary letters projects in U.S. history, for me is better than retirement. It's a sign of my health, and it's a sign of the degree to which scholarship in the humanities at Creighton is healthy and is ready to grow. I'm lucky because since I started the Letters Project in 1995, I've been able to work on the edition with dozens of professional colleagues around the world, and you'll see some of their names on the screen now. I'm lucky because I've been able to work with dozens of excellent students here at Creighton, and every day I'm able to work with faculty colleagues, administrators, and others, from Katie Summer, who's the project's superb associate director and assistant project director, to Beth, who delivers my mail and packages, to Carolyn and Cora, who make sure my office is ready, to Liz Zuha and Dawn Wilson, who help me keep track of my budget. Slide. I'm lucky because no work that I do, none of it, or could have been done at all by myself. The Complete Letters of Henry James project is a work by many, many good people, and I'm really grateful to all of them. I'm lucky because while I've been interested in Henry James studies since my first year in college in 1977, soon after I was hired as an assistant professor here in 1991, the Henry James Letters Archive, access to which had been virtually impossible up to that point, was opened. Slide. I'm lucky and ambitious scholars in the college was at a scale that today would only be accessible really in our dreams, and I mean that as a true fact, not an exaggeration. Without that support and without those incentives, I could not be here today, and this isn't an exaggeration either. That culture of incentives and progress is responsible for my development as a scholar. For example, there was, when I arrived at Creighton, a policy to provide unlimited travel funding for giving peer-reviewed papers. And though our salaries then, as today, were significantly lower than those of our peers, the travel policy made Creighton College the envy of my newer and also established friends in the business. It testified in real terms that my superiors wanted to help me and thus the college succeed at our core mission. It allowed me to get out on the road, show what I could do, and begin to make the kinds of professional relationships that a few years later supported the edition. And that edition is a project that no one at that time thought possible. For instance, let me just give you one example of this. One of my colleagues, having had a paper accepted to a conference in Singapore, this is probably about 1993 or 1994, and having investigated the airfare for attending the meeting, sheepishly asked the dean if he should apply for funding. And the dean told him, "You worry about getting your work accepted, and I'll worry about paying for the conference." Needless to say, such support was a sweet carrot to chase. I was lucky to come up under such a merit-based culture. I'm lucky because when I proposed the Center for Henry James Studies with a tight and thorough plan, so much like a plan for a new business and a publishing contract for about 150 volumes with one of the largest academic publishers in the country, and an advisory board that was an international who's who of Henry James scholars, and they knew my work from conferences and publications, and they were eager to support it. The AVP said, "Yes, let's start." And I'm still lucky today because Creighton, along with other donors, supports the James Center and my work there. Not only does the James Center house the Complete Letters Project, it's the home of the Henry James Society, with members from California to Greece and Italy, Germany, India, Korea, Japan, and China. I've been executive director of the society since 1999. Slide. Every third year we run an international conference. In 2002 we were in Paris, 2005 Venice, 2008 Newport, 2011 Rome, and this year we'll be in Aberdeen. And this slide is the post-colonial James panel from Rome with Ken Warren, Susan Andrade, and Jonathan Iraq. Our conferences are known for being welcoming and exciting, intense and open to and supportive of new ideas and young scholars, as well as those more established. The relationships formed at those meetings are responsible for much of the great work going on internationally in our discipline. Slide, please. This is a slide from Venice and shows the novelist Colm Toy-Bean between Henry and Robert James, great-grandsons of William James. And it's always a treat for me, and especially the other conferees, when they can go to a Henry James conference and actually meet Henry James. They love having their picture taken with Henry James. He wears his badge, right? It's hilarious, right? But I think the key thing is the person-to-person cooperation and the ability to bring people together and to talk about our discipline in meetings and then also outside meetings. That's really the key. The James Center shares its library of Henry James scholarship, letter copies, and expertise with students and professionals from around the world. Slide. We train Creighton undergraduate and graduate students in scholarly editing and project management. We have no interns. For me, professional work is paid work. For students to experience such work is for them to experience it as something other than schoolwork. Such training is consistent with our mission, and I mean Creighton's mission, to prepare students and to transition them for life after graduation. Slide. The James Center staff, especially Katie Summer, who began working in the office as a graduate student, left to work in commercial publishing and then came back, consults regularly on small and large scholarly projects, newspaper and magazine fact checkers as well. We've also done a bit of feature film consulting. Not only is the Complete Letters Project one of the largest literary letters projects in U.S. history, the author of these letters is one of the most prolific and important writers in English over the past 150 years. Henry James, son of the philosopher of the same name and brother of William James, the pioneering psychologist, was a prolific writer of novels, stories, criticism, and essays. The 10,500 known Henry James letters are to over 900 correspondents, including other writers, politicians, military men, family friends, social gadabouts, and business associates. His fiction has been the starting point for more than 100 films and stage productions, and his image has been used by Barnes & Noble and Mercedes-Benz. He has always been a writer's writer, and the greatest English and American literary theorists and scholars over the past 75 years at least have studied his fiction. Slide. Okay. The advance of the Complete Letters Project over earlier selected Henry James Letters editions is not only in the unprecedented number of letters and the range of recipients, it's in the editing itself. In the editing, we take the letters from manuscript, which can be difficult to read, and I'll show in a minute some examples, to an edited page that is easier to read, but at the same time retains the meaningful details of the original. The editing strategy we use is called plain text editing, and I adapted it from the Mark Twain Letters Project, is more accurate than other critical editing approaches. More important is that the letters are represented so that meaningful features of the manuscript, such as cancellations, overwriting, and other details that reveal sudden shifts in meaning are evident to writers or to readers. And I'll show you some examples of this slide. Okay. Let's see if I can turn this on. That's okay. I can just point. Some of the key features I want to talk about from the manuscript are really highlighted. In the upper left, you'll see an abbreviation for the name William. Next, just below it to the right, it's actually an abbreviated plus sign. You'll see Merime's name is misspelled, and here's an abbreviation for NAR, North American Review, an abbreviation for second. And then the key feature is the one in the slightly different color, which is a cancellation for I have, and then a careted in has. Okay, next slide. Now, one of the ways you can show this in the standard way is simply to expand all the abbreviations and to eliminate all the cancellations. It's an easy read. It contains final information, but it doesn't show any of the changes. And the thing that you really miss, in addition to the author misspelling someone's name he shouldn't have misspelled, is the cancellation of I have to has, okay, that you saw a second ago. Next slide. One way that you could do this, and it's kind of a middle approach, is to leave the abbreviations, right, and even leave the misspellings, right? This is called uncorrected clear text. But what uncorrected clear text still misses is the cancellation, right? Next slide. In plain text, we show the abbreviations, we approximate special symbols, misspell misspellings, show abbreviations, but also include then the changes, right? And in some ways it might not be a big deal to change I have to has, right? It's simply a change of mind. The key thing is that it was a feature of the manuscript. The edited letter represents the manuscript. And in this case, though, the difference isn't that big a deal. But sometimes it is. Could you, next slide. In 1869, James was 26 years old, and he was just kind of establishing himself and establishing his career. And as really an aggressive professional and a natural social climber, he needed a sponsor. And the sponsor he cultivated was Charles Eliot Norton of the really great Boston and Cambridge Eliot Norton family. And on one of James's first solo trips to Europe, he wanted to keep Norton informed, right? I'm your mentee. Here's what I'm doing all the right things. Remember me. In this particular letter, there's a feature here in which the final word is Geneva. It's Geneva. But you can see down here in the next slide, I'll give you a close-up of it, that the A is written over something. And so this is a kind of an interesting change. And what's written underneath it is the French word Genève. So James is locating himself, and he's really saying, I wish that we had more of these certain kind of paintings he's talking about in Genève. But he caught himself realizing that I'm trying to cultivate the mentorship of a straight-laced New Englander, and probably I should use an English term or American term, Geneva, and not try to come off like this young Europeanized guy, right? So you have the change from Genève to Geneva in this place. And those are the kinds of changes I think that are really important if we can represent them, to represent them. That in a sense he changed identity at that moment from an American who's completely under the influence of traveling in Europe and in fact speaking with a kind of European accent in the letter, to someone who wants to really correspond with some expectations of his New England mentor. And we represent it in this way then. Down here, we strike through the first word, Genève, right? Because the movement of one letter over another letter actually changes the whole word, and then we leave the second word. So both are apparent in plain text editing, where in the other editing methods you wouldn't see any of this. You wouldn't know any of that. Okay, that's my story, right? Our strategy for representing all such shifts in meaning, as I've just showed, is to show both the first choice, which James decided against, and then also the second choice. Elsewhere, we show words that were carried into the letter as insertions that they are, showing there, too, James changing his mind and adjusting his meaning, even as he wrote the letter itself. And this kind of friendly, reader-friendly communication of the manuscript is really the foundation of the edition and the innovation of the edition. In addition to that, the edition also offers James's letters with richer and more extensive annotation than any previous Henry James Letters edition. We completed a couple of weeks ago our 8th volume of letters, which will be published in September. We're all but finished with the last in-house version of the 9th volume, which will go to our copy editor in about a month. And that begins an 18-month-long publication process. And then at the same time, we're beginning a 10th volume, which should be published in 2016. The project is also growing in a new direction, even as it continues its work with the print version. Last month, we concluded agreements with the University of Nebraska Press and Penn State University for digital products that will really focus on the letters. The University of Nebraska Press will produce ebook and other electronic versions, and Penn State will build a digital Henry James archive, which will have the James letters as a centerpiece. Since I conceived the project in the mid-1990s as a digital one first and a print one second, I'm lucky to have been able to make this partnership with Penn State, which I hope and expect will add to our students' opportunities as well. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you, and especially grateful to work every day on a project that I love. Thank you very much.